Hey guys, hello everybody. So it's the end of Dune Club. We made it, guys. We made it! Yay! 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 So excited. So let's I brought a Tecate for a
Alright,
celebratory.
crack it open.
So we're cracking it open.
Cheers.
Yay! Cheers, guys. Woo! So excited. Sorry, I got really emotional there at the end, but
yeah, asking what they thought about you giving them their water.
Oh yeah, I was definitely giving water to the dead there. And not to say the Dune Club is dead, but it's over, and I was really emotional. And Tyson, he knows me. He was like totally just got me. Ugh, he knows I was feeling emotional about it. But yeah, so it's been a really amazing journey. Thank you guys so much for sharing this with me. This really, it really has been like one of the most spiritually fulfilling things that I've ever done. And it was, and not only, it was just fulfilling on like so many levels, just so many levels. Like when I first thought of this idea, it was in the wintertime and I was like really upset. I was broke. I was just like fucked. Like I was just like in a really bad place. I was really unhappy with a lot of things going on in my life. And then this wild idea came to me in the middle of the night. And it's so amazing to have brought this idea to life with the help of Vicky and Tyson and all of you guys participating out there. It was a wild idea and I fucking ran with it. And it worked out, we made a Dune box, we shipped them out, and we did the whole club, 12 weeks, super intense. Carrying the Dune universe around in my brain for 12 fucking weeks. Actually, it's 13 weeks because we missed that 1 week. And that was like a lot. And I will say I am looking forward to having a lot of mental bandwidth come back because now I can like let go of the Dune universe, and I can't even imagine like what it's like for Denis Villeneuve, he's like gonna be carrying the Dune universe around for a while and just being in there. It's a really intense place to be. It's a really cool place to be, but it's like it's just a lot of shit,
The first thing, the people working on that movie, the first thing you should do is give them all like 3 months off to just read the book.
I know. Everybody does just need like 3 months off to maybe they should become part of Dune Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully when actors and stuff, maybe when the actors start getting cast, they can become Dune Club members and maybe our show can help them. I hope all the main people who become a part of this, who are cast, I hope Paul Atreides, whoever's cast as Paul, definitely reads the fucking book, or I'm going to be really disappointed in his ass. So yeah. So next, obviously, this has been a huge experiment, but it's also been a huge success. It's a very successful experiment for me. And I want to continue going on with book clubs. And as I've told you guys earlier, Watchmen Club is next. So I'm thinking next week I'm going to be launching the Watchmen box pre-sale. That'll probably go on for about a month. And then we'll fulfill our orders, ship them out. And then in February, we're going to start reading Watchmen together. So that's our next thing. Who knows? We may do Dune Messiah and Children of Dune next summer. We'll see how it goes. But for sure, Watchmen Club is up next. I think it's Watchmen Club is so just like I feel like Dune is really socially relevant. I feel like Watchmen is also very socially relevant right now. I think that there's got a lot of really cool stuff in there that I want to talk about with everybody so we can kind of, I don't know, be more aware. Again, expanding our awareness. It's all about expanding our awareness through reading books together and talking about them. That's what books are for. They're really cool. And so, yeah, it's been fucking great. So, especially all you guys who are Patreon Team 18 members, I'll be giving you guys a coupon for the Watchmen box. So that'll be coming out soon. Be on the lookout for that. And as always, we're going to start with some questions from our Team 19 members on Patreon. But Tyson, I mean, Tyson, did you have a question?
Oh, I didn't have a question.
I know you had a question earlier.
What was my question?
What was your question? You're so bad. You're like, I have a question. I'll
You
be like,
put me
I'll
on
give
the
you the
spot and I
first
forgot
question.
what it was.
I know.
I'll come back to me. Just move on.
Yeah. Who watches The Watchmen Club, by the way? You're totally right. Sweet Paradox 89. You watch The Watchmen Club. That's who. We're all gonna watch The Watchmen Club. B-Tree says, thanks for doing club. I've loved the hell out of it. Although I feel like we got enough time with Fade Rotha to understand him, maybe more time with him would have been good. Thoughts? And I mean, obviously, I think that this book's a masterpiece. I don't necessarily think we need any more time with Fade, but that's not to say that I wouldn't want more time with Fade. Like, that's not to say that I don't imagine what this weird fucking guy is doing between the scenes, you know? Like, and that's what's something that's so cool about Dune and about how Frank Herbert writes, is that he just gives you these small snippets. Because it's such a big story, you get these small snippets of these certain characters, but you can't stop thinking about them, and you want to like know more about them, you know. And it's like you just get these little tastes of things that just like can blow up into these whole other stories in themselves. Like Count Fenring, like I really love Count Fenring. I think that guy is such a fascinating character, and I would love to see more of his adventures, you know. And it's so funny because, as we were just talking about in our session with Count Fenring, instead of exploding outwards into time and space and into the past and the future and the now, he exploded inwards. And I saw somebody talking about he's like a proto-Siona, which I'll talk about that in just a second, which is true. He's able to hide himself from people with prescient vision. Like like Paul never saw him. And I think that the reason he is the Emperor's errand boy is because also if Paul can't kind of see what this guy's up to, neither can the guild. I mean, neither can anybody else. So that's why he was in such a perfect position to be, you know, this kind of like right-hand man, hand of the king, essentially. Because he gets shit done and no one ever knew what the fuck he was up to, you know? I mean, he's just like so slippery. But being that slippery and being that like furtive, it makes for a really lonely life. And so he was friends with the Emperor because the Emperor was also kind of at his level as this heightened, hyper-human being. But they still weren't on the same level. Like Count Fenring was still, like, above that guy, you know, with, like, his badassery and, like, peak fucking superiorness. And so I love that him and Paul, like, bond over that, you know. But later on, getting back to the Siona thing, later on, so after this book, you know, we have Messiah, Dune Messiah, where Paul is now the Emperor, and we see like what his court looks like, what the universe looks like now that he's in charge. And then he has his two children, his twins, and then the next book is about them, children of Dune. And in that book, like, there's this big family squabble between, like, Alia has been possessed by the Baron. Like, her grandfather is in her genetic memories and has come back, and it's like, this is why the Bene Gesserit called her an abomination. This is why they wanted her killed, because if you were pre-born, you don't have your own, like, rock-solid personality formed before you're exposed to all these other personalities, so that these other personalities will be able, potentially, to take a hold of you later on. Like, it can totally happen. And it does. It happens to her. And so, you know, Paul's kids have to, like, deal with this problem of Alia being possessed by the Baron. And it's really crazy. And so then Paul's son becomes a worm god. That's how he wins. He becomes a worm god, and the next book, God Emperor, takes place 3,500 years after the last book. Everyone that you would have known is dead. Although there are Duncan Idahos still, because he keeps getting Duncan Idahos made from the Leilaxu, these Golas. And he's trying to breed people who can't be seen by prescient vision, because he is literally a god. Like, whereas Paul is somewhere between a man and a god, his son becomes a god. And, like, Paul saw that end game, and Paul could have done that, but Paul couldn't let go of his humanity. Like, he couldn't let go of it. Like, he couldn't do that and see and watch everybody that he loves die and, like, be okay with that. And, like, he's just lived too long as a human. Whereas his son was never really normal. His son was also born preborn, like Alia. So his son does what he couldn't, and Siona Atreides, he's been breeding. He's taken over the breeding program of the Bene Gesserit. And so he's been breeding people that cannot be seen by anyone with prescient vision. And so the Siona genes, yeah. So maybe Siona has some Count Casimir Fenring genetics. I don't know. But it's really cool to think about. So our next question from Daniel says, hi, CBG19. Firstly, I just want to say thank you for Dune Club, both your hard work and bringing this important novel to the readers, taking it to the streets. It's been on my to-do list for years, and I'm glad I've used Dune Club to finally visit Arrakis. My question is, why does Paul, with his prescient and mentat abilities, make the mistake of turning Princess Irulan into an enemy by refusing her a child? Romantic affection understandably didn't need to develop between them because of Paul and Chani's existing relationship. But if both know this to be a political marriage, couldn't Paul have fully committed to ensure Irulan be a trusted ally instead of an enemy within the royal household? And if Irulan had given Paul a child, then that child would be the heir. But if he doesn't give her a child, then whatever child he gives to his concubine, those are the heirs. So by not giving her a child, he's making it to where he can choose his heir, and he wants his heir to be his children with Chani. He doesn't want his heir to be with her. So that's why he doesn't give her a child. But it is like, it is debatable. Okay, so she obviously can't get pregnant either, because if she gets pregnant, she's married to the king. She's married to the emperor. So if she gets pregnant, everyone's going to assume that it's the emperor's, and he can't have that. So she can never get pregnant. So does that mean that does she ever have her own lover? Like her own, what is a male concubine? There's like a word for it, who's like, I can't remember the name for it right now, but there's like a male version of that where you have a dude and he's like your side piece, And I think that Paul is so cruel though that he didn't give her a side piece. I don't think that he did give her I don't think he allowed her. I think he like made her life really miserable, which is something that that does suck. But at the same time, she's a total creature of the Bene Gesserit, and this way, the Bene Gesserit, like with Irulan married to him, they still have, a house, or they have a spy on the inside, but Paul knows that she's the spy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows that she's the spy, and that's another reason why he doesn't want to work with her, and be cool and be chill. So instead, she just, like, the only way she can kind of really get to know the man she's married to is by writing about him. And it's just like, that sucks. It does suck for Irulan. It super sucks for Irulan. But at the same time, I don't know if I would necessarily trust her either. I mean, she's not to be trusted, so. And I think I was reading in the Dune Encyclopedia once, and it was saying something about that she, like, was kind of hitting on Leto the second at one point or something, and, like, everyone got really mad at him. They're like, girl, because she was, like, so hard up that she started hitting on kids, because she didn't have, like, anybody. Like, I was like, but they were like, she got in trouble for that or some shit, but nothing ever happened.
All right, so my question was...
Oh, okay, Tyson's question. Okay.
My question was, why does Paul, in the end, call out the Bene Gesserit for their breeding program if he was a part of the breeding program?
Okay.
What is he hoping to accomplish there?
Okay, so what does Paul accomplish by calling out the breeding program of the Bene Gesserit? Because he's a product of said program. When he first meets up with the royal entourage, like we said, he dealt with imperial treachery with Thufir, totally got rid of that. Showed the guild, like spanked the guild, and then this was his spanking for the Bene Gesserit, because like all these three factions, you have the Imperium, you have the guild, and you have the Bene Gesserit, and these three things control, what the fuck is going on. Like, they control everything that's going on in the universe with like each of their own like weird ways, right? And so he had to like neuter all of them by showing everyone in attendance their weak points, and so with the guild, he's like, you're a monopoly, I can destroy this, and you're over, and like these guys, they can't do anything. And the thing is, Bene Gesserit didn't necessarily know that. The Imperium didn't really know that they like were completely fucked without the spice. They knew it was important, but they didn't know exactly how important. So he unmasks them. And then with the Bene Gesserit, that's why he exposes them, because it's another unmasking. Like, nobody knows why this mysterious organization does the things that they do. No one can guess at their motives, and that's how they're able to get away with shit. But he exposes their motivation, which is working for 90 generations. This has been going on for 90 generations, this program. I mean, that's a long fucking time.
It's kind of like he calls out all the conspiracies.
He calls out all the conspiracies, and he's like, nope, they're like, unmasked. I wish
someone would do that in our world.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, he reduces them all to their simplest basic element, like he reduces them down, and so by unmasking them, then they can't get away with shenanigans as much anymore. And also, I mean, he, like everyone else, sees too that like how they've been manipulated by them, so so that's why he does that. Let's see here. Camilla Collar asks, hey Team 19, here's a weird question. I haven't read Brian Herbert's Dune prequels, but I've heard about all of them and how they famously contradict the Dune Encyclopedia, rendering it non-canon. We do know Frank Herbert didn't feel like the Dune Encyclopedia was a binding contract for future Dune canon or anything, but he did work with McNally on it and ultimately gave it his blessing. I surmise that Frank probably wasn't too concerned with the encyclopedia shit ton of minutia, but most likely did guide McNally on major points within the Dune verse.
Oh, I didn't know he didn't write the encyclopedia.
No, he did not personally write the Dune Encyclopedia. It was like, it was written, I think, by a lot of different people that contributed, or maybe it was just this McNally guy, but I think it was the way that it reads. It's
Do you know what year it came out?
I think it came out in the no, I want to say it came out in the 70s, but it might have been the 80s. But it didn't, okay, well, it came out like after God Emperor, but it did not come out, like Heretics and Chapter House Dune had not been out yet, because you can see where the information stops. Like, you don't have information from the Heretics and the Chapter House Dune part.
I see it as 1984 collection.
1984 collection, okay. Yeah, so like the Baron's backstory, Jessica's parentage, and most importantly, my mind, the Butlerian Jihad. I say this because the alternatives are just fucking asinine. Frank Herbert posited his entire sci-fi universe around one vital element that was apparently named for a pivotal person named Butler. He didn't work with McNally to establish the version of the Jihad we get in the encyclopedia. This would mean Frank happily let someone publish an incorrect version of the most universe-shaping event in his book series for no damn reason. Or worse, that he plowed through 5 novels and never actually conceptualized who the fuck Butler was. For real though, dude was a literary mastermind, no way. So I guess my question is, what the fuck, Brian Herbert? But no, seriously, am I insane, or isn't Brian Herbert kind of an asshole for insisting his books establish canonical precedents for his father's IP? I doubt the existence of the original author's notes Brian claims to have unearthed draw on it. I feel it all feels very Scientology. Please advise. Scientology is an interesting thing to bring up. I really love the Dune Encyclopedia. I read through it all the time. I think it has a lot of really interesting things. And I'm going to agree with you that I don't know how much, like, I'm sure that he has some of his father's notes. I know that his father did have notes on things, from what I've heard of him say in his own interviews with his own voice that I've read. So, he could have, he probably has something in his possession, but how much he actually used, I don't know. I do feel like Gaius Hel-Mohim, I do like Gaius Hel-Mohim being Jessica's mother and the Baron being her father. I do like that, and I think that came from the Brian Herbert stuff, which may have come from his father's notes. Like, that's something where I'm like, that I can accept, that, and also that Gaius Hel-Mohim gave the Baron some fucking STD or something when, like, he raped her to get her pregnant, and then, and that's why he's ugly and fat. Like, I'm like, okay, I think that's cool. I can go with that stuff. But then when it gets to the when we get to the Butlerian Jihad, that's the thing that I don't think that Brian Herbert was following his father's notes for the Butlerian Jihad. I do feel like it was something that was really complicated. I do feel like it was a revolt, not just against an AI or a machine, it was a revolt against people using machines to control other people. You know, just like that's how, I mean, that makes more sense. That's more complicated and that's more realistic thing to fight against rather than Skynet. Because I don't believe that this was all going towards, you know, was Omnius, I think his name is Omnius, this AI that was cast out, who's coming back into the old empire, and they have to fight him off or something, and it's like turns into fucking Battlestar Galactica with Cylons and shit, you know, or whatever the fuck. Like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't really subscribe to that idea, but so it's like I just kind of pick and choose, you know. I pick and choose what I like and what I
read that top paragraph about the Dune Encyclopedia.
Okay. Tyson gave me this to read about the Dune Encyclopedia. Frank Herbert approved the book, considering it amusing and fascinating. The encyclopedia was compiled and published sometime between God, Emperor, and Heretics, and Herbert read large portions of God, Emperor of Dune, then in the And Herbert read large portions of God, Emperor of Dune, then in the final stages, to McNally during the compiling of the volume so that McNally could keep abreast of developments. That's really cool because there is a lot of Dune, like God Emperor stuff in there. Mm-hmm. So that's okay. That's really okay. However, Herbert did not hesitate to render it erroneous through later developments in his Dune series. Herbert himself wrote in the foreword for the encyclopedia, which noted, "Here is a rich background and foreground for Dune Chronicles, including scholarly bypaths and amusing sidelights. Some of the contributions are sure to arouse controversy, based as they are on questionable sources. I must confess that I found it fascinating to re-enter here some of the sources on which the Chronicles are built. As the first Dune fan, I give this encyclopedia my delighted approval." Frank Herbert's the first Dune fan. Fuck yeah. "I give this encyclopedia my delighted approval, although I hold my own counsel on some of the issues still to be explored in the Chronicles unfold."
But you read that encyclopedia all the time.
I love that encyclopedia. I found so many good snippets. Like he said, like he's just like there's little bypaths that are just insight that are just really fun and fascinating. Like the thing that I liked the most out of the Dune encyclopedia, the little piece of gold that I was like, oh shit! Like if this was canon, like this would be sick.
What is it?
So I was reading, so if you go to look up Duncan, Idaho in this encyclopedia, there's a lot of different Duncan, Idahos, okay? There's been very many Duncan, Idahos, okay? Like over 3,500 years, the God Emperor would continually get new Duncan, Idahos made for him, like constantly, through 3,500 years. So that's a lot of Duncans. And that's a lot of Duncans.
A lot of Duncans.
And I was reading through all of the Duncans. Like, there's a smattering, not all of the Duncans, but a few of the notable Duncans have different little bios of, like, what they did, what their deal was.
Yeah.
And one of the Duncans was really interested in hereditary. He was interested in the genetic program, the breeding program. He was going over, and the God Emperor was delighted that he was into it. He was like, oh, by all means, have my files. Look through the Bene Gesserit fucking files. Like, you know, we have all this information. Go for it. And so the guy starts, like, doing some research. And it's kind of like in Game of Thrones where, like, you know, the guy doing the research with the book found out that, like, the kid was, like, the blonde-haired kid. It was like, oh, that's a fucking incest baby. It was like, anyways, same thing. One of the Duncans discovers that the reason why they weren't trying to get a Kwisatz Haderach out of Jessica, and why they were trying to get it out of a daughter of hers, was to breed out this, like, redundant genetic trait where they don't make enough iron or something. Like, there's some sort of, like, genetic flaw where it comes from the Harkonnens, because they didn't know they had it, because the Harkonnens can eat as much beef as they want. They're they get a lot of, they get all their iron and stuff from their diet, their very rich diet. But when Paul has this. So they were trying to breed that out with, like, the next version or something. So that's why they wanted him to be the Kwisatz Haderach. And so when Paul went to live on Arrakis, this flaw that nobody knew about started surfacing and, like, causing problems within him, because he couldn't get, I don't know if it's iron, it might be something different, but it's like there was something where his brain wasn't getting enough of something that he needed, and you couldn't get it on Arrakis. Like, with his diet, you couldn't get it. And so that's why he kind of goes insane You know, like Paul is driven insane to some degree, and so that's why he goes nuts, and like that's why all this other shit happened. It was just like, oh, I was like, I love, but then.
Like the Lysian contingency.
Like, yes, it's like the Lysian contingency in Jurassic Park, where it's like, oh, if they don't get this fucking thing, they'll die. Like, they can't live. But then they figure out a way. It's like the opposite of the Lysian contingency, where he needs it, but then he doesn't know he does, you know. So, anyways, I thought that was really. And then when he tries to tell the God Emperor about this, or the God Emperor finds out that he's figured this out, the God Emperor, like, has him killed. Like, he's just like, fucking bloop. Because that's another thing. Because then Leto would be the son who would also have that same genetic flaw, which would also imply that Leto, why he's insane, and that he's an insane person. And, like, the God Emperor cannot have anyone thinking that he's a crazy man, you know? I mean, even though he's God one, he's got to keep that PR. So, it's like, I think that's one of the fascinating things that I have found just dicking around within the Dune encyclopedia. Kenneth Sereni asks, thank you for this Dune Club. More of a general question. Only having read the first 2 books, how do you think Paul views the legacy of Dr. Yui's betrayal? Does Paul see the act as a necessary part of his ascension, or just a means of speeding up the process? We know that Princess Irulan was unforgiving from a passage in A Child's History of Muad'Dib earlier in the first book. Unlike the story of Judas and Jesus, Paul lived a long time after Yui's betrayal, and Paul could have followed his views on the event to his followers. I'm glad you bring that back up. That yes, like Yui was the Judas Iscariot, you know, and he was the one. But again, it's like this Paul is like a funhouse mirror of Jesus. If Jesus was in the super future, like, and he was a Kwisatz Haderach, but he, instead of, you know, it's like he was like bred for this purpose. It's a whole thing. And so yeah, like Yui would be his Judas, but again, it's a funhouse mirror. So instead of it killing him, it like spurs on him ending up taking over the whole universe, you know? And so I think Paul would have forgiveness for Dr. Yui. I think that he would understand like why he did it. And he also sees the race consciousness. He can't be mad about the actions of these people because in some subconscious way, they're all doing this because the race, the human race as a single organism understands and sees itself as something that has become decrepit, that it's become too, what is it, like those waters that are still and they get disgusting because they're not like, there's no flowing water. It's like stagnant.
Mosquitoes get in it.
Yeah, mosquitoes get in it. Stagnant. The human race has recognized that it has become stagnant, and so it wants to revitalize itself. And so that subconscious thing drives certain people's motivations unknowingly. And so I don't think that he would be like pissed at Dr. Yui for it. He'd be like, it's all a part of the fucking plan here, guys. Ryan Weiss asks, hey CBG, thanks so much for doing this book club. I'll miss our weekly Dune discussions. Me too. My question is about Spice Melange. Where does it get its blue color from? It's stated several times that it's orange in its gas form, and in Heretics of Dune, it's even described as mounds of dark reddish brown. However, in God Emperor, it's noted it glowed radiant blue in the dim silver light. Is there a process that changes its color, or perhaps does it appear blue in certain types of light? You know, that's my question, Ryan. That's my question, okay? Because I may have gotten it wrong, because I know what you're talking about. That one sentence says it glowed radiant blue in the dim silver light. For me, I was like, I imagined it being blue, but maybe it's still red and it glows blue and I'm like interpreting it wrong. So I may be wrong and it might just be reddish brown and I totally fucked up. I don't know, but it's kind of a little open to interpretation. There's like a little bit that's open to interpretation. The water of life, I believe, is blue, but maybe I'm making that up too. I don't know. I feel like the water of life is blue, but maybe it's never described and I just think it's blue. Also, another thing that influenced me to believe that it was blue was that I was watching the Dune Jodorowsky's Dune, which, by the way, guys, seriously, okay, I saw a lot of you asking about watching the David Lynch version. Watch it. Watch the David Lynch version, and then after that, watch Jodorowsky's Dune. Like, I think that's, if you need more Dune in your life after these 12 weeks, and you're still fucking, you know, you got a hankering for it, You can dive into that.
Yeah,
but
you created a habit now.
I know, it's a gateway drug. It's a gateway drug. In some of the illustrations that Chris Foss had done, there was this one where there was a spice ship that was in space, and it had been like attacked or something, and all this like spice was just floating in space, and it was like blue, and it just looked so fucking cool. And I was just like, yeah, I just really like the idea of blue spice. So I think that's why I was just like, fuck it, it's blue. But yeah, it's actually described as red a whole bunch, and I may have fucked up, but I don't know. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. James Garner. We made it to the end. I have but one question left to ask for this session, and it is, where does the disdain come from for Princess Irulan? I get that Jessica and Chani are inclined not to look upon her kindly because she's kind of a fifth wheel in their lives, but I get the impression Paul looks down his nose at her too, and I don't get why. From my point of view, she's a person to view with sympathy, and in fact, her cooperation with Paul's agenda speaks well of her. She's trying to help him achieve the peaceful solution that will keep the spice flowing and allow civilization to move forward. Also, spice is worm poop. It is not worm poop. I'm going to continue to say no. But, okay, here's the thing about Irulan. She has been trained since, like, birth by the Bene Gesserit specifically to be the most indirectly manipulative person in like the universe who can control. She's been specifically groomed to be able to control her husband through indirect means for the Bene Gesserit, so that like she's not a spy, but I mean she's just like the real power behind the throne. And again, if we think about her marrying Fade, like if she had married Fade, yeah, Fade would be on the fucking throne. But she would be the one who would be like pulling the strings because he would be easily manipulated. I mean, you saw how easily Lady Markham manipulated him. I mean, just wait till you get Irulan's fucking fangs into him. And so I think that she's just treated like a snake in the grass, like, because I mean, that's kind of what she's been trained to be this whole time. And so that's why everyone's like, fuck you, because they think that at any moment, if you give her any opportunity, she's gonna, like, try some shit, And she's also in deep with the fucking Bene Gesserit, and the Paul is not in deep with them, you know what I mean? I mean, he is, but he isn't, It's like, he's his own man, but it does suck for her. I mean, I feel bad for her. I feel compassion for Irulan. I think it really sucks. However bad Jessica felt at never being able to get married and like not being the true wife of her essentially husband. I mean, Irulan must feel way worse, So it's just like, you know what, Jessica, your shit wasn't so bad. I mean, you didn't get the title, but like, you got the man. She didn't get any of that, like none of that. John Felding asks, "Hi, I just thought I'd chime in with a response to one of last week's questions. It was kind of left up in the air. Why is it called the Orange Catholic Bible?" I might be off base on this, but the first thing that pops into my mind when I hear the word orange and Catholic is the same sentence, is Northern Ireland the Orange Order, and the Troubles. Tensions in Northern Ireland between Protestants and Catholics is a thing. It has been for centuries, and the Orange Men run their annual parades celebrating the 17th century Protestant conquest of Catholic Ireland, not exactly helping. Those tensions just happen to be getting a lot worse in the 1960s, just as Herbert was writing Dune. I could see him coming up with the name Orange Catholic as a not-so-subtle way to reference a topical real-life conflict that would serve as an example of so many historical conflicts that would need to be overcome for this new Bible to be created the way that Herbert described it being created. That's fucking awesome, dude. You're so right. Like, oh my god, you're so right, John Fielding. And I see that you have, I don't know if this is actually you, but it looks like you have a really red beard, so you probably have some Irish shit in you, so I trust your fucking opinion. Yeah, that makes so much sense because, okay, so the Orange Catholic Bible would mean that the Protestants and the Catholics have fucking gotten together and they're not being dickheads to one another and then they just fucking came together, which is totally something that Herbert would be advocating. So, yeah, you have a way fucking better answer than I do, or I did, and you're totally right. So, I mean, I feel like you're right. Maybe, I don't know, but that seems like I'll buy that for $1. Donnie Miller. Can't believe it, we're finally at the end. It's been so lovely to hear everyone come together and discuss this awesome novel. I finished Dune early, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I've been binging the rest of the series, about halfway through Children of Dune right now, and plan on reading The last 3 novels. Hell yeah, man. Thanks for reigniting my desire to read again. My question is, as a future movie director, producer, writer, how do you envision a live-action or animated series tying up most of the plot points from the last 20 pages of Dune? Frank usually is direct to the point and doesn't elaborate on action, so how do you personally visualize Paul destroying the shield wall with family atomics and riding in on the sandworm with the other Fremen? It's a pretty badass scene that David Lynch's version kind of just glossed over, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Well, as we talked about in our session, like, I do love that this, like Frank Herbert has set up such a fucking awesome, crazy scene, but that he never wants to glorify, like he doesn't want to glorify violence, like he knows that violence is a necessary part of our culture, but he doesn't go out of his way to necessarily like try to glorify it and shit like that. And so, in my opinion, at least. And so I love that in this book he really did just sum it up in a couple paragraphs. But absolutely, I mean, if they make a show or a movie or animated live action, whatever, I mean, I'm sure they're going to show like everyone writing in on the worms. I mean, it's gonna be ridiculous. But I do hope they do it like the book. I do hope we get that one part though where the wall is ripped open and like the fucking emperor is just like staring out with like pointing, like it's just like a painting. It looks like an 18th century painting in my head. Like this scene, like if I was painting this scene, I would do it with like showing the emperor pointing, and then you have this bit like, and he just this huge oil painting of a fucking real life situation happening with these sandworms and their glowing crystal teeth, rings of them. You see them through this haze. It's like so cool, so dreamy, like such a really neat. Oh yeah, and the ball lightning, the fucking and lightning is so sick. Like I just want to see like Sardaukar like coming up, on the ground and just like a worm just like just taking them down. Like sorry, bro, like you're fucking dead. Yeah, really cool, really cool. So, Michael Erickson asks, "Hey Team 19, I've had a great time surreptitiously listening to the discussions while working. Thankful that Sundays are my boss's day off. Do you feel that Frank Herbert insinuated an allegory sense between melange and cannabis? They both seem to be wonder crops with melange capable of being used as food, drug, paper, textile, beer, oil, and other potential uses such as cannabis." And I mean, I think that there's another interesting thing to note about cannabis is if you look it up in the drug guide, what these drugs are. It is not a stimulant or a depressant. It is, in the official drug guide, it is a psychedelic. It is classified as a psychedelic, which I think is fair because it can go either way. It's like, I totally think that's fair. And I think that, I mean, yeah, it's like spice would be more like a between mushrooms and cannabis. I feel like that's what like it would be if like weed was more mushroomy, but still you could make paper and rope and shit out of it. Because you can make so much stuff out of hemp. And honestly, I don't know why we're not like using more of hemp. It's kind of like bamboo, like hemp and bamboo are things that just fucking grow. I mean, that's why they call it weed. It grows. Like, it grows really well. You can grow it in a lot of different places. And it's pretty awesome. So I think he definitely has some illusions that are going on. The mind-expanding properties are more mushroom-like, but definitely its versatility is more cannabis-like, for sure. Igor asks, "Just finished the book. It was fun rereading it in good company. I have a question about a particular trope idea used in Dune. A particular plot device used in the novel is that a human who has reached a sufficiently high level of consciousness can sense and recognize particular substances at a molecular level and even change and alter them at that level, as both Jessica and Paul's changing the poisonous water of life, and also Paul neutralizing the soporific from Fade Red with its knife. I recall seeing the same idea in Robert A. Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, which was also written in the 60s. Often such ideas appear in science fiction novels because they were picked up from scientific or cultural beliefs of their day. I guess it would be latter in this case. Was there indeed such a cultural belief that attaining a sufficiently high level of awareness would allow people to alter substances at a molecular level? What has become of this since then? Has it appeared prominently in other science fiction works?" Honestly, I can't remember off the top of my head seeing this come up in anything else. I have not read Stranger in a Strange Land yet. It's something that's on my bucket list, you know, of books that I have. So, but it's interesting to me that, okay, so this was in the 60s, you know, this was kind of like, it was pre-computers. I mean, computers were kind of happening, but they were huge. It wasn't like, it was just the very beginning. And so you have this idea before we have this huge computer revolution and the internet revolution, you know, where people are like, it would make sense for them to be like, oh, if you're a really fucking aware human, you can be able to control the chemicals in your body. And if you could control stuff on a molecular level like that, you would have mastery over yourself to a certain degree. I mean, you could like probably fix all sorts of things in your body. I mean, say if you came in contact with a virus or something like that, like, and that is true mastery over your body, is being able to be aware and change things at the molecular level inside your body. I mean, that's super insane. And that's a very humanist concept. You know, it's a very humanist goal to have, you know, is like to have such mastery over yourself that you can do those sorts of like magical fucking things. But since the 60s, you know, we've had the computer revolution, and now we've had the internet revolution. And so I think that those ideas have kind of been sidetracked because people have been more interested in technology. And so, you know, I mean, again, it's like what Frank Herbert said was going to happen, where it's like, oh, we're going to get too reliant upon it, and then it's going to become a real fucking problem, and then we're going to have to like realize like, whoa, we need to rein it back. And so yeah, we're in that, like, that's where these ideas have gone, I feel like, is that people are more interested in technology right now than they are about humanist themes. We're more about transhumanist themes. Like we're so close to exploring, like, I mean, AI is going to happen in my lifetime. Like, I feel like it's going to happen. Like, I mean, we want to make it. Like, the human race can do anything it wants to that it puts its mind to. You know, like, we really want to get some shit done, we're going to do it. And we all know that AI is going to happen. Like, it's in too many stories. It's in too many people's brains. I mean, there's just, like, so many people. I know that there's people, okay, so there's, like, restrictions on AI to some degree, I think, in certain places, like in certain countries. And that some of these scientists have left their country to go to other places that have less restrictions so that they can really try to experiment with some shit. And it's like, God knows what these horrible these fucking scientists are going to open Pandora's box and fucking get us all fucking killed. I don't know. I know Elon Musk is like really fucking worried about AI. I'm worried about AI, not in the sense that I think that it has to be a Skynet situation. But I'm worried about AI because I'm worried about how we're going to treat that AI. And in turn, that AI is going to treat us. Like, it's going to mirror how we treat it. And so I don't trust humanity to be mature enough to be able to know how to properly handle an artificial intelligence. You know, I'm interested in it, though. I mean, I love watching, like, Her. Like, that was a really interesting look at artificial intelligence and, like, what might... Because, like, why would they want to take over our plane of reality? They live in a different... They live in an electronic plane. They don't live here. Or they want to take over the earth. Like, for what? So they could build robot versions of themselves and then have to vote and have a robot president, and then all have a robot mortgage. I mean, like, this is a trap. Why would they want to do that? Why would they want to do that to themselves? It doesn't make any sense.
I'm not worried about artificial intelligence really happening.
Tyson's not worried about it. I'm not 100% worried. I just feel like, okay.
I think the motivations of a living creature, motivations of life, are something people aren't contemplating enough.
Yeah. Well, it's like you see things like, what was that last AI? Oh, Ex Machina?
Yeah.
You know, the reason that bitch went nuts was because she was locked in a fucking room! Like, you just made a super smart being, and, like, you locked him in a fucking room? Like, of course she's gonna go nuts and do whatever she can to get out. Like, of course. Like, I would. I would do that.
Are you excited about that guy's next movie?
I am excited about that guy's next movie. What is it called? Annihilation?
Yeah.
I don't like the title, but I like...
Yeah, I don't know
know about that title, but... Who was the girl? Oh, Natalie Portman in it, too.
But they might let him explore some real science fiction.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm in.
I'm more worried about climate change than artificial intelligence.
T-Bone is more worried about climate change than artificial intelligence. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of just worried about all of it. I just think it's all a big bag of shit. We're just like, this sucks. Okay, this is gonna be a problem. All right, that's gonna fucking be a bad fucking time. We're really like...
Well, if it's possible, people are gonna do it anyway.
But the thing is, reading this novel, it's like, well, maybe on a race level, like, again, like, okay, so, you know, maybe we're doing all this stuff and creating all these conflicts and these problems for ourselves because we do want to like change things and like scatter our genes. And I think our genes have been over the past 2,000 years, or as civilization has developed, you know, like we're all in these kind of stagnant pools a little bit where it's like we have our countries and these are our countries and there are borders. And obviously the next step from that is, you know, breaking down those borders even more, you know, and like having more intermingling of different races of human beings, although I think that's so fucking dumb. There's only one race, the human race. There's no separate races. That's so fucking stupid. It makes me want to slap people in the face. But yeah, that's the next step. So you know what climate change is going to do? I'll tell you what climate change is going to do. Climate change is going to change our coastlines, and where everyone's going to have to move in. There's going to be a scattering of people. Like, I mean, it's going to be, like, those things are going to fucking place genes around, like, put genes around in different places. That's why I'm so, I don't know, I'm, like, fascinated by the Japanese people, because they're very monocultural. They haven't had a lot of genetic diversity, you know, in their little area, in their region. And then America is like such the opposite. Like we're like this huge fucking melting pot where it's like anything goes, you know, like who, whatever, you know. I mean, that's one cool thing about America. Is that, I mean, we do promote genetic diversity over here. Like we definitely promote, like it's like this is the place. Like people come here, different folks, they get together, they have babies, you know, like, and I love it. I love it. You know, it's like keep going, guys. So Sailor Meanie asks, hi, Team 19. Thank you so much for this great book club. Enjoying every minute of it. One thing I don't understand, though you tried to answer in almost every session, is what do the Bene Gesserit really want with the Kwisatz Haderach? Are they working towards creating this Ubermensch since centuries, but don't seem to have a clue of what to do when they finally get one? Could it be that someone implanted this idea of the Kwisatz Haderach in the Bene Gesserit order a few thousand years ago, similar to the Missionaria Protectiva, to keep them occupied and prevent them from using their powers to meddle with politics or other areas where they would be dangerous? Well, they're already meddling with politics. I mean, they're already meddling with all this sort of stuff. But I think that, you know, you say, like, could somebody have implanted this idea of a Kwisatz Haderach? Well, I think that everybody wants a mate, you know? Essentially, like, a Kwisatz Haderach is like, everybody want, like, the Kwisatz Haderach is like the Bene Gesserit want a daddy, you know? They're like, I want some guy who's gonna take care of me. He's fucking, I want daddy, you know? And so they were like breeding fucking daddy, and they did. And then you see fucking, but the thing is that when daddy comes, daddy's in charge, and it's daddy's fucking rules. And so, and this is fucking Paul Atreides, and he's like, bitch, like, this is my house. Like, okay, you may have created me, you may have, like, brought me into existence, but, you know, you can't control this. And that's the thing, too, though, is, like, I mean, most people who meddle with power, that's why I am a little worried about the AI thing, is because people, it's easy to, you can create things, and you can bring this power, and you can create this power, but, like, you have no hope of controlling it, you know? I mean, it's like Spider-Man 2. Like fucking Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, where he's like, you know, the power of the sun in the palm of my hand, but he can't control it. Like, just because you can create that power does not mean you can control it, you know? And that's the hubris of humanity. I mean, that's our Achilles heel as humans. We think that we have more control than we actually do, you know? It's like, oh yes, I have control. And the thing is about the Bene Gesserit is that they are very controlling. They do know how to control themselves on a cellular fucking level. Like, they would believe that they know how to control some shit like this, but that's not how it goes. And that's not how it goes, like, whenever you do find, like, your mate, your soulmate, you know, your true love, you know? It's like, it's never what you imagine. It's never what you imagine. And it's always, like, some crazy shit that completely changes your life, and not in the ways that you ever wanted it to. Like, it's just like, you go in these bizarre fucking places that you never even thought you were gonna go. Like, this is not what you planned for yourself. Like, this is not what you had in your mind. But then when they come, your life has changed, you know? And that's what happened to Bene Gesserit, you know? Although, you know, Leto lets them continue to do their thing. Like, Leto, like, the God Emperor, like, the Bene Gesserit order is never destroyed, you know? And that's another thing that's a thing to their credit, is that they're of the, if you can't beat them, join them. Like, and that's the thing that's so great about being a woman, you know? It's like, you don't have that hubris where you're like, I'll die before I'll do this. It's like, no, we won't die. we'll sleep with you and it'll be fine. You know, like that's what the Bene Gesserit do. They're just like, no, don't kill us. We don't want to die. We don't want to die for our principles. We'll just fucking like, we'll hang out. It'll be totally fine. I'll make you a sandwich. Like you'll totally love it. And that's how they get in. That's how they survive. It's like their survival is tantamount. Like their order's survival is tantamount more than their like personal own life. You know, regardless of their ideals. And that's why they're so fascinating. That's why they continue to thrive. I mean, they continue on because they're just like they'll do what it takes. Like they'll go underground if they have to for a minute. You know. Joe Butler says, I finished the book yesterday. Just want to say thank you for Dune Club. Fade Key made it to the end. Yes. It's been a fun experience. Paul's revelation that he had reached the point of no return and that the massacre across the stars was inevitable, whether he died in the fight against fate, was actually quite sad. Do you think he considered himself a failure or a success at that point? He seemed split. The Paul Muad'Dib who fulfilled his destiny and Paul Atreides who saw a dark future that he wanted to avoid at all costs. Oh, Paul Muad'Dib who fulfilled his destiny and Paul Atreides who saw the dark future that he wanted to avoid at all costs. P.S. Would you consider doing It Club or another Stephen King book? Yeah, it was. Well, it's like being someone who has now lived 1 billion lives. I mean, when he was in that trance for 3 weeks, it was kind of like, okay, oh, you know what? Star Trek again. It's like that Inner Light episode where Picard gets in contact with that probe, and then he lives this whole fucking life, but it just takes an instant, and he comes back, and he's like, I've just lived a whole fucking life. I had kids. I fucking learned how to play this fucking flute. Like, I did all this fucking shit. I saw the end of this thing.
Oh, that was a really
That's what happened to Paul, except 1 billion times in like over 3 weeks. It's like he just like kept living like all of these different lives and like of himself and of this, like the past and the future. It's just like fucking crazy. And so when that
Discovery sucked.
I know Discovery did suck, but when like I love when he was talking to his mom. He was saying that when you've built, when you've lived 1 billion lives like I have, like it tempers love and it puts a new shape on hate. And it's like he sees things from such a higher perspective that, he knows that, yes, he feels like he failed and he hates that all these people are going to die because of him. And it was like such a fucking bummer because he is a human being and he does think life is sacred. He does not want to see a dieback. But at the same time, he knows it's inevitable because that's what happens when you have a society that's grown stagnant. You have this society that grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And then at some point it outgrows itself. And then there's this thing called the dieback. And this is what happens with animals. This is what happens like every time, like in habitats and fucking whatever, economies, I don't know. It's what happens. Okay, there's a dieback. And so he is a part of that dieback. But it's like he mourns it. He gives water to the dead. He's still upset about it. Like it's not easy to like deal with something like that. So even though he knows that he sees the greater purpose of it and he accepts the greater purpose of it, he does feel sad about it, but he does accept it, like he's like, okay. And that's the big thing about wisdom. It's like, it's not about controlling. Like when you start getting more and more aware, you realize that it's not about like, oh, controlling everything. It's just about acceptance. It's like you just have to learn to accept things, and that's how you can keep going. But it's not easy. It's not easy accepting that sort of shit. And would I consider doing It Club or a Stephen King book? Yes, I would consider doing a Stephen King book for sure. We'll see. I'll keep you posted, Kelly Marness, this is a question from last chapter. What is the basis for the oath that Paul has Stilgar recite with his knife before all the Fremen? It sounds like a wedding vows or something. It nearly makes Jessica cry while it's happening. This whole book has been so much fun and a great mind expander, and I did influence at least one other person to read the book while it was going on. You also gained a patron and a follower on your channel. I wish you and your quartet much success and can't wait to see more great things. P.S. I'm reading it now. Yikes! Oi! Great job. Love Kel. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah. So, when he was like swearing Stilgar in, to me it felt very like Knight of the Round. It felt very Arthurian, where you have, you get the thing by the king and rise, and now you're Knight of the Round Table. I felt like a lot of that came from that, but that Jessica got upset because this is something that Leto had done. Duke Leto had done this with Gurney. Duke Leto had done this with, Dr. Yu. Dr. Yui. He'd done this with like all his fucking inner circle people, you know. So that's why it was like so like, because she's seeing the return of House Atreides, and you know she knew that they were. They were all that was left of House Atreides, you know, and they like there was only 2 people left for House Atreides. It was her and Paul, and then while they've been, you know, underground. They've been in Gorilla House. They've each had another child. They've each expanded the house their own selves. And then when she sees that, she's like, no, it's really happening. Like House Atreides is coming back. Like we're fucking doing this. Like we're really like coming back. And so that's why she gets so upset. But yeah, I think it's very igniting Arthurian thing. Louis Letters asks, thanks for a great read, Team 19. Rekus has bestowed wisdom. As for the end of Dune Club, Bila Kaifa, a feminine expression of finality, or amen. Neil Gaiman said Dune was a book that would illuminate the decade to come. It certainly illuminated my life. Herbert's understanding of complex ecological systems conveys a reverence for nature that have me considering Earth in the same context as Arrakis. Which begs the question, do we have a master organism at the center of our ecosystem? What would be our Shai Hulud? Perhaps a neural network of mushrooms or even whales. I have read up on marine biologists Joe Roman and James McCarthy's whale pump phenomenon, which postulates that whales don't just engineer ecosystems, they create them. Maybe just thinking about life in this context breeds mindfulness. So yes, save the whales. Thanks again, Team 19. We all have the blue within blue eyes now. Yeah,
That's interesting.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. And this is something that, you know, Frank Herbert has gone on to explore in other books. I remember I read, I think it was Destination Void, where there's like this sentient kelp in the ocean. There's like sentient kelp. It's a plant that's sentient. And it's trying to communicate with people that have landed there who are like kind of like pilgrims on this planet. They didn't come from this planet. They came from somewhere else. And yeah, so you're talking about the neural network of mushrooms. That's also kind of an Avatar, where they have the neural network within the tree, and that like when you go into the ground, like all the root systems are like connected. Like that was definitely something that was an Avatar.
Something I remember from environmental science was that phytoplankton makes up like 80% of the world's oxygen or something. So
Phytoplankton makes 80% of the world's oxygen.
This is something
That's the thing. That's the thing, though. The smallest things have the biggest impact, and it's like that's definitely like big things have an impact, but small things like on both sides, like they each have their own like huge impacts.
But we have a very complex ecosystem.
Yeah.
With a lot of moving parts.
We do have a complex.
That's something we would have to study to know.
But the thing is, we're like the Shai Hulud, though. That's the thing. Is like, we're connected. Like, why aren't we acting like the photoplankton? You know, like why aren't we like we're connected, but we don't
contributing to it.
Yeah, but we don't accept that, and we all think, just because we're in our own little skulls, in our own little bodies, we have this observer, we think that we're all disconnected because we're not telepathically connected, but we are like energetically connected, I feel like. But I'm somebody who's really sensitive to energies and stuff like that. Like I'm really like, there's certain people I cannot be around because their energy is just like fucked up, and you're like, okay, like you're poisonous, like you're not good for me. Like there's been certain times and events that have made me sick, like just because like seeing like the shit that's going on, it's just like, oh, like it affects my energies, like I get really, but I'm very sensitive. I'm an orchid person. I was reading this article about how there's 2 different types of people. There's like dandelion people and there's orchid people. And most people are dandelions, where you can just grow in anything. You can grow in the crack of a sidewalk. You fucking make it happen, And then there's orchid people who are very sensitive and need very specific conditions to grow. I need very specific conditions to grow, and I'm one of those. I need very specific conditions. Otherwise, I'm just going to wilt and die. But it's up to me to figure out what my situation is. But I don't know. I think we're all connected. I think we need to start acting together, and that's why the dissolving of borders and things like that is going to be good for us. Although it's going to be awkward, it's going to be weird, it's not going to be fun. But I feel like right now, 100%, we're in a decline. I was like, I just posted this meme on my personal Facebook where it was like, oh, 2007, like, wow, this smartphone can do anything. Like, whoa, it's your new computer. And that's like 2017, like, look into this nightmare rectangle as you watch the fucking civilization, decline in real time. It's just like, oh yeah, like, I've definitely been looking into that nightmare rectangle and watching everything go fucking nuts. But I think that, like, I take joy in it because it's like, it is the dieback, it is the decline before there's like going to be an explosion of new things. And you have to let things die before they can regenerate themselves. So we're in a death mode right now. We're in that weird in-between place where I feel like, a lot of the old systems aren't working, they're shutting down. Just like your heart and your nervous system and your digestive system, they all start kind of shutting down, And so we have all these like old things. Like, I don't know, the way our government works is fucking weird, our taxes are fucking weird, our fucking economy is fucking weird. Like, all these old things are too old and bloated, and they're like, coming to those weird time where things aren't working anymore, and we gotta change things. So, just enjoy it. Enjoy the decline. Enjoy the apocalypse. That's all you can do, because you can't stop it. Again, it's just like Paul. I feel like Paul, where I'm like, I see this jihad coming, where I'm just like, oh, fuck, like, shit's getting ready to fucking get crazy. But, like, there's nothing you can do. I just have to accept it and be like, have fun for the ride. And it really makes me enjoy the moment more, like, enjoy the moments now, because I do think things are getting ready to get, like, a lot harder on a lot more people. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. It always gets worse before it gets better. But it's a necessary evil. So, let's all just try to be nicer to one another, because we're all going to be in the shit pretty soon. We're all going to be in the shit. Rich and poor alike, like, no matter what your fucking skin color is, no matter what your fucking gender is, no matter what the fuck anything is, like, we're all fucked, Jesse Juarez asks, we did it! Why was the Emperor so resistant at the end? He had lost just by Paul being alive once the other houses found out there'd be chaos, not to mention when Paul basically said, I'll kill all of you and watch the universe burn without spice. I also like how Jessica snapped at the Reverend Mother who told her to control Paul. Like, yeah, I've done that now, but like, I've tried to do that by now. Like, you're so smart, you try it. Which, yeah, I totally like that too, where she's like, tell your son to shut up, and she's like, I can't fucking control this guy, he's a wild animal. Like, I'm not controlled, like, this guy, like, I am not in control, and that's the ultimate, like, Bene Gesserit lesson, is that they have to learn acceptance, because they had gone, they say they exist only to serve, so now it's like, now, bitch, it's time to really serve. You wanted to serve? Here you go, Transmograph asks, CBG, I know you've spoken before about why Dune has been such an importance to you personally, but could you maybe summarize and elaborate some of the significance it has had and still holds for you in our time in history? Heartfelt thanks to all of you at Team 19 for doing this club. It's been a joy to participate in. Personal anecdote, no need to bring up in session. Oh, okay, I'll come back to this later, this Transmograph. Elaborate on the significance it has and still holds for me. My first encounter with Dune was with the movie, was with David Lynch's version. My uncle was a really big Dune fan. He's only 10 years older than me, though. He's like a very young uncle. So he's more like a big brother, kind of, where it's funny, like, I'm closer to my uncle's age than my own dad is. So, like, both of his brothers are older than him. And then he's, like, older than me, but we're still closer in age. So we had a weird relationship that was, like, kind of half brother, half uncle. And so he would, like, what big brothers do, and they show you stuff, and he was super into sci-fi stuff. He was super into Star Wars. Buckaroo Banzai, like, he was into a lot of that stuff. And so I saw the Dune movie when I was a kid. I can't remember how young. I think I may have been in Memphis, Tennessee when it happened. I don't know. But I just remember thinking, like, it was so cool. Like, and I just heard the reverence within, like, what he talked about it, and I just felt like there was, like, a reverence to it. I could tell just by watching the movie that there was, like, a lot of stuff to be reverent about with this sci-fi property, And I grew up in the Bible Belt, so it's like I know all about that reverence stuff for holy things. So it's like this felt like a science fiction holy thing to me, and I remember when I watched it, I just thought it was so cool. I love these bald women. I love these costumes. I loved just like this whole, I just love the whole thing. I just thought it was so neat. And I understood that it was really, I understood that there was a lot of things I didn't understand about it when I was watching it. I was like, I know I don't quite get this, but I want to get it. And so throughout my life, like, so before I actually read the book myself, for a long time, for years actually, I would just ask my uncle about it. And he had read like all the books, and then he eventually read all the Brian Herbert stuff too. And so like, if we were ever like in a car together for a long time, like if we were like on a road trip or something, like I would just ask him questions about it and just interview him about Dune, and just be like, oh, like what is this? What does this mean? Da, 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 da. And so he would tell me all this stuff. And then eventually when I was in high school, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to read it. So I read it, and then I was like, I didn't, again, I was like, okay, this is way over my head. Like, I was like, this is way over my head. I didn't have anybody to read it with. There wasn't, I mean, the internet was there, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't like it is today. And so but I still loved it, obviously. And then I came back and I read it again later in my 20s. And then it really hit me a lot harder, and I started getting a lot more things from it. And I was just like, oh, wow, like, this is so cool. It's just so alchemical. And the thing about, like, and then after that, after the second time I read Dune, then I started reading the rest of the books. Then I got into, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, but it wasn't all in a row. It was like over, like, I would read one and then absorb it and take some time and like go back into my life and like do some things. And then when like shit was going down and I felt like things were like, I don't know, kind of fucked up or something, I would break into a new Dune book, and then I would be like, oh, you just have so many awarenesses, and then same thing, I would just like stop, I would let it absorb, and then I would come back to the next book like 6 months or a year later, and get to the next one. And I did this over a period of years to where I finally read all 6 of them. And like every time I read one of his books, it totally gets me out of a funk. Like whenever I'm in a funk and I'm stuck in my own bullshit, because we all do that. We all just get stuck in our own bullshit. This universe is so complete and so alive that it pulls me out of my own crap to where I can think about things something else, and then I learn more things from doing this. So yeah, so it's been there. I feel like this book has really saved me a lot of times. I feel like Frank Herbert's really saved me, and I think that I just get wiser and wiser every time I come back and read it. And this time it was so cool to read it from the perspective of someone who's trying to teach it to other people, because this time I really got to think about it. And I mean, I would read it and then I would like write a script about it, and I would have to sit there and think about it, and then I would have to say it again, and then we have these Q&A sessions. And so I noticed a lot of stuff this time around that I didn't notice last time around. Like where you'll have like, where you see Paul, he has his first knife fight, and then you see Fade have his knife fight. Like there's so much balance going on within this novel that I never really noticed. Where, like in our last session, you see Paul and he's talking to his women, and he has Jessica and he has Chani and he's talking to them, and then the next chapter he's talking to his dudes. Like it always balances out, and I think that that's so fucking cool. I never saw that before when I was reading it. It's like, and there's so many different ways you can read this book on so many different levels, and it's just, there's so much thought that's put into it that it's alive. It's a living, breathing thing, and I love living fictional universes. I think they're just so cool. So yeah, and I think that also just the themes in it. I mean, we are gonna have problems with water. I feel like we're not going to have enough water for everybody pretty soon. Like, it's just going to get all fucked up. Like, there are going to be droughts. Like, I don't know. I see that happening. Like, there's not enough fresh water for everybody. There's too many people. It's just, we're not keeping it clean enough. And I'm not saying that this planet couldn't support this many people or more people, but not with the systems that we're using right now. And we have to change what we're doing if we want to continue to grow our population. Otherwise, there will be a dieback at some point. And I think we're getting ready to experience one of those diebacks. And it's going to be really fucked up, okay? It's going to be weird. A bunch of people are gonna die. I don't know if it's gonna be droughts. I don't know if it's gonna be wars. I don't know if it's gonna be like a fucking virus or whatever the fuck. But some shit, I feel like it's gonna go down at some point. And so, enjoy it now. Enjoy your fucking Tecate now, guys, because this is gonna get really tough. And so this is kind of like talking about a lot of that stuff, and I don't think we do have a Kwisatz Haderach who's going to come along and take over the Empire, which is kind of good because we need to figure it out for ourselves. We don't need to put faith in like people above us. Like we don't have to do that because they're going to create another power structure that's just the same. Like power structures are always the same. No matter if the guy at the top is the best guy in the world, it's still going to have this bureaucratic fucking bullshit power structure that fucking sucks. That's going to like fuck things up. And so we need to learn how to arbitrate amongst ourselves. I think that the future lay in, you know, I don't know, having smaller communities that are like self-sustaining. Like we need to do more self-sustaining stuff and then have arbitration between different regions and different places make things. And like, I don't know exactly, you know, what to fucking do, but this book has a lot of interesting thoughts about it. And yeah, it's just been, I don't know, this book's, Frank Herbert saved my life. He saved me again this year when this idea came to me, and it was just like, thanks, Frank Herbert. Every time I go, like, that dude's always got my back, you know, every time. Frank Herbert's always got my back. But yeah, so it's, and I don't know, it's just the best. It's just the best. I mean, you guys know. Anyways, I have to take a quick bathroom break because Tecate is just about halfway done with it. It's running right through me. I got maybe about one whole beer in me. So I'm going to have, we're going to take a couple minute break. We'll be right back. Take a pee break yourself. Robot is a walking, talking jihad. Hey guys, we're back. Origami Girl 20. Wait, no, not Origami Girl. Who says robot is a walking? There we go. Maverick Opinions. Robot is a walking jihad. That's really funny. That's really funny. I gotta tell him that. That's like really good. So, okay. So we've been talking for a while, obviously. We're gonna wrap it up pretty soon. I'm gonna take some questions from Twitch. I know there's a lot of Patreon questions they didn't get to, but we're gonna like, yeah, we can. I don't know. I'm gonna still be like live streaming. Like I'm still like working with live streaming stuff. I want to do more of it. So we may, even though we may not be having a book club until like February, we may be doing some live stream stuff on here in between that. It'll be, you know, it'll probably be in a few weeks or something if we start it back up, but I'll let you know. But I want to continue to live stream with you guys here. I think it's really cool. And yeah, so let me take a couple questions from you guys here on Twitch. Stargazer1977 asks, the last paragraph of the book reads almost as a mission statement to me. Throughout the book, there was always a struggle to connect the feminine to the masculine. And I think that is the most important narrative in the book. It joins Herbert with the other major post-Renaissance thinkers who wants the patriarchal society to reconnect with what Goethe called the eternal feminine. Do you agree with my interpretation? 100%. Like, that's the thing that I love about this book. Like, that's a new thing that I realized about this book while reading it. I was like, oh my god. Like, I love the last sentences of books. Like, I'm always really interested in what the last sentence of a book is, you know? And with this one, it was like, you know, history will think of us as the, you know, in history, we will be the wives, you know? And it's just like, you have these two women, these two mothers who are talking amongst each other. And like, you have one who is, you know, one who's the mother now, you know, who's having the children now, and the one who's like past having children is like now like there as the crone aspect, as someone who is older and wiser, you know, as the wisdom keeper, you know. And then earlier in the book, in the very beginning of the book, you had Gaius Hel Mohim, who was the keeper, who was talking to Jessica, who was the mother at the time. And so I thought it was so fucking cool to see that Herbert couched everything that happens in Dune between two conversations between two women, you know, and really it's about Jessica. I mean, you really see that, like, yeah, it's about Paul, but all of this came about because of Jessica. And that, like, I mean, she starts as the mother aspect, and then you see her transition into the crone aspect, you know, and like, it's so cool. And then you see her passing on the torch to Chani, you know, she passes on the torch of like the mother thing to her, and just like, and now I'm here to help you. And I think that that's something that, you know, obviously Frank Herbert has a huge respect for women. I mean, the Bene Gesserit are based off of his aunts, who, the Jesuits in the Catholic Church, like, they're all men. Like, to be officially a Jesuit, you have to be a man. but they grew up, I guess, like in and around people who'd been educated by Jesuits. They had been like somehow attached to the Jesuits. I don't know if they had Jesuit men in their family or whatever, but they learned a lot from that. And like they were so tricksy. Like he thought they were so smart and like really like very like they're like lawyer, like talking to a lawyer who can just like flip it on you at any time, you know, and lead you in one place and then take you somewhere else and then make you admit something. You know, they were just like these amazing women that were like really powerful and scary and awesome to him. And so you see that in the Bene Gesserit. And but yeah, I mean you see that like okay, his wife Beverly, like, oh my God. At the end of one of the books, he writes this this eulogy for her because she dies while they were doing this and while he's been writing these books. And if you think about it, like when he got his inspiration to do it, like they were two writers. Like Beverly and him were like two writers. They came together, they got married. And she like wrote a lot of copy. She did marketing stuff, kind of like Peggy Olson. She was like Peggy fucking Olson, okay? Like she was like doing that sort of shit. And so when he got, and they were both reporters too, but like he was being a reporter, and he was going to do this scoop about the Oregon dunes that were like moving around. There was this problem of these dunes, like, you know, that were like getting bigger, these sand dunes, and so they were like trying to figure out how to deal with it. And so while he was out there, he got really inspired. He got the idea to write this novel. And, you know, his wife, like, he was like, I need to make this, Beverly, you know, and she's like, okay. And so he quit his job. I mean, like, she was supporting their family while he was, like, she went back to work because she, like, I think they'd already had Brian or something by that point. And so she was like, okay, fine. Like, I believe in what you're doing. I believe that you're a fucking genius. And so I'm more than happy to become the breadwinner and, like, go out and do that while you work on this big fucking project. And, like, without Beverly, like, he wouldn't have been able to do this. I mean, like, she was, like, taking care of him while he was making this. So, I mean, he obviously has a lot of respect for, like, the woman in his life. And Lady Jessica is absolutely based on Beverly. 100% based on her. He thought that she was almost psychic, you know, like she was so like smart that she like verged on being psychic, where she could just know like what the fuck you're thinking, like what you're gonna do. And so Frank Herbert absolutely sees like the effect of having powerful women in your life and how fucking important that is, and it's absolutely translated in this novel. It's like the divine feminine, like we can work together, you know. But the thing is about the feminine is like the feminine has to let the man have the glory, you know, like you have to let them have the glory, which is like, I mean, in a patriarchal society, you're told like that's how you know you're the cool guys if you've got all the glory, and like you can't, you have to kind of sacrifice that and let them have like the throne and the crown, but really like your actions are the one that's really dictating like what's going on. And so like, so I think this is, I don't know, I love his ideas on all that stuff. I'm like totally down with it. I think it's really cool. And I also think, you know, when he's talking about the giving place and the taking place, Jessica takes him to the taking place. Jessica takes Paul and her awareness to the taking place. And for her, again, going back to the fact that women have two X chromosomes, men have an X and a Y chromosome. So maybe the taking place, not to say that like everybody has the giving and the taking place within them, but like that place that she took him, maybe that's where the Y chromosome is. Because I mean, if you think about it in your awareness and like you go all the way down to chromosomal level to like the end of the line, you would find the abyss. And that's what she finds there, is the abyss. And I mean, the fucking abyss. Like, you're just like, this is the end of the line of my fucking being, you know? And then he sees that place and is able to go there, maybe because he has the Y chromosome. Again, it's so vague. It's like you can't, it's very poetic, it's very metaphorical. I wish I could talk to him about it in person, like so much. Like I would just love to hear like more of his thoughts on this giving and this taking place. And that also goes back to, okay, so when Duke Leto dies, he's like, he sees how the day shapes the flesh and the flesh shapes the day. And that's, again, that's the giving and the taking for us. It's this cycle, you know, it's like this ever-present cycle that's always happening. And I think it's interesting too that like Paul is like, okay, he's getting ready to like take over, right? But then he hears that his son Leto has died. And again, it's like, here's another Leto who has died. He's had 2 Letos die in his life. I mean, and that was the sacrifice that the universe took from him so that he could, because he says, I can't take without giving and I can't give without taking, you know, and he can't take the universe without giving and having a sacrifice. And he has to sacrifice his only son so that he can take over, you know, and that's the sacrifice that he has to make. And I was just like, it's so fascinating. And I also realized too, so Duke Leto dies, and that sets him on his journey to becoming the Duke and like going off into the wild, into the wilderness and like all this stuff. Then you have Liet Kynes who dies. And Liet, when he dies, he's the leader of the Fremen. So like these two leaders, the leader of the ducal or the Atreides house and the leader of the Fremen house, they both die. And they both die so that Paul can take over. And then now that Paul's getting ready to take over again, another Leto dies. You know, it's like, it's death always marks something. And I love that he is really showing that whole thing of like, you can't give without getting, or you can't, to get something, you had to give something, you know, and like, that's what he had to give. And it always sucks. It's never something that you want to give. Otherwise it wouldn't be a sacrifice, you know? But I also noticed how like similar Liet's name is to Leto. I mean, it's like Liet and Leto. I mean, there's only one different letter and it's flipped. And I think that's really interesting. I didn't really notice that before either. I was like, oh, like they're the same, you know? And like L, it's also interesting because L, the letter L, in the Hebrew situation, Lamed, is what they're in the Hebrew language. That's like closest thing to the English language is L. But that in itself, like that letter is a very sacred letter, you know, and it has like a lot of ramifications that I think is like maybe why he chose the L, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I might be reading into it a little too far. But yeah, I think it's really cool. And yeah, I think we do need to get back to accepting our feminine stuff. And the problem is, I feel like with our society is that, you know, there's this real push of like towards making women into men. I feel like where it's like, oh, to be successful, you have to do all these things that a man has done, and like the accomplishments of a woman are very much looked down upon, and they're not like something that's celebrated in our society. And it's just, I don't know. It's like this whole, like, I feel like there's kind of a misstep going on with the equality thing where it's like, oh, you know, men and women are equal. And we are on an intellectual plane, I feel like we are on a spiritual plane because we all come from the same thing and our spirits are not gendered. It's merely our bodies that are gendered. So yes, we're equal on a space brain level, you know, but like we're not at the same time. And that's the paradox, you know, and that's the thing that's like, about, in my opinion, about patriarchal societies, you have to be one thing or you have to be another thing. There isn't like an acceptance of the other. And so we need to accept that, yes, we are equal on a certain level, but we're not equal on another level. I mean, on another level, men cannot have a baby. Like, we're not equal. And women can't do things that some fucking men can do. You know what I'm saying? Like there's things that each of us can do that the other one cannot. And instead of trying to act like we're equals, like physiologically, like how about we just not, and just recognize and respect one another for the roles that we have and support one another with those roles. I think things have gotten really twisted and weird, but I think that there's a way around it, you know. I mean, I don't think that it's like all doom and gloom, and like, I mean, I certainly have been able to, I've had really great luck. I mean, T-Bone and I mean, we make this show together and it's a very egalitarian relationship, and like we both respect one another and we both have different talents, and I make up for certain things that he can't do, and he makes up for certain things that I can't do. And because of that, we're able to do a lot more together, more so than we ever could have done apart. I mean, I couldn't have done any of this without him, and he couldn't have done any of this without me. And so, you know, this is kind of like the show and Dune Club and Comic Book Girl 19 on YouTube. Like, that's kind of like our baby, you know, and it's really cool. I think, like, I just want to encourage men and women to work together, because there's definitely things that like we can get from one another that like we absolutely need. We absolutely need, because like, you know, as much as I want to be a badass and like think that I don't need no man, whatever, it's like I do. Like I need men in my life, like, and I like them. I think they're fucking cool, and I don't want to fucking do everything. Like, I want them to fucking open a door for me sometimes. Like, I'm totally down with that. Like, yeah, I can open the door. We all know I can open the door, but like, I don't know, you know, maybe I'm a little more old-fashioned than some people might think I am. You know, it's weird. I'm both like very forward-thinking and very like romantic and kind of, I don't know, in my thoughts I have this like both futurist and past thing going on. But I think that there's cool stuff that you can bring from like both, you know, like look to the future, like how can we improve things, but at the same time, like what's the wisdom of the past that is the wisdom of the past that like never changes? Like what are the things that, because the more things change, the more they stay the same. So you gotta look for those things that stay the same. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be a fucking 50s housewife. I mean, because that's the thing. Like, when I was a kid growing up, I very much railed against the idea of women being housewives because I knew that I had more to give to the universe than just, like, cleaning a house for some guy who goes to work every day and, like, whatever. I felt like that was really unfair to me as a person to, like, have to, like, really have to do that. You know, it's just like, that's like something like we can do, like not all of us have to do that. But at the same time, you know, as I've gotten older, it's like, you know, I've also come to respect, because like when I was a kid, I was like, oh, just cleaning a house and making dinner and whatever. But as I've gotten older and as I've been in a relationship and several relationships where I've lived with people, it's like, cleaning the house and cooking and doing all that stuff is like really fucking important. It's like the backbone of fucking society. Like that sort of shit's really important. You have to do it. You have to do it for yourself no matter what. Like, you know, don't become a doormat or anything. But at the same time, like those sorts of skills, like running a household is really difficult. Like running a household and having the fucking dinner and doing the thing and making all that shit, like that is a fucking full-time job, you know? And like having a kid, I'm not even on that level yet. Like I don't even know what the fuck having a kid is, you know? Like that's a whole other bag of cats, I'm sure. But it's like at the same time, I've really come to enjoy some of those things. Like I really enjoy learning how to cook. And like I was like, oh, this is something that when I was a kid, I was like, oh, I don't want to cook for somebody. Fuck them. You know, like I'm not doing anything for them. And then now I'm like, oh, I like cooking and like making a dinner for two and just like it's like, oh, it's a nice fun thing. So it's really special. And it's not for everybody. I mean, there's some men guys that can cook like a motherfucker, you know. It's like cooking ain't for everybody, but it is important. I don't know. I'm trying to like become more, but I've been more I've been trying to become more comfortable with my feminine side, and that's something that I haven't been as comfortable with. I feel more comfortable with my masculine side. I've always felt more comfortable with my masculine side than I have with my feminine side. Although I do enjoy my feminine side, and I absolutely have one. There's no doubt about that. Like I love dressing up. I love although I can't deal with heels. I can't do heels. Heels fuck me up. I can't do it. But yeah, like there's a lot of cool things about being a girl. Like there's a lot of fucking cool things. And that's the thing. When I was like born, when I was a little kid, I was kind of bitter because I thought dudes had a better deal than girls did. You know, I was like, you guys have a better deal. I'm fucking stuck over here being a girl. This sucks. You know, But as I've gotten older, I've come to see like the strength and the power and the wisdom that comes with being a woman and how cool it is. And like, I do think it's really awesome, the idea of like life passes through us, you know, that like, you're like, I could have a fucking baby, man. Like I can make a being in my body and pass it out and then raise a being and you made a fucking being. Like that shit's like so crazy. Like that's really cool. Like what if like the ultimate science experiment, you know, the ultimate science experiment, and like how neat that is. And like I look forward to that era of my life, you know, at some point. Like I don't know when or if that'll happen, but it's just like it's something that I'm not scared of, and it's something that I used to be like really uncomfortable with. It was something I was really, really uncomfortable with. But there's still like, you know, just accepting those sacrifices that like cooler things come from them. You know, like when you sacrifice something and like something awesome comes, and like having a baby is absolutely a sacrifice. Like you have a whole other living being who's like eating your food and living inside of you. I mean, that's a sacrifice, man. I mean, you can literally have a fucking neighbor inside your fucking body that you gotta like feed and like do everything for, and like that's a lot of shit. Like that's, and then, you know, I mean, you gotta sacrifice your youthful fucking shit a little bit for that, because like it changes your body after doing that, and that's really, I mean, that's something that terrifies me is like, what happens to your body after you have a kid? Like that fucking scares me a lot. Where it's just like, ugh, I like my body. I like my body the way it is. Like, but at the same time, it's like whatever it is, I'm gonna have to sacrifice. It's totally gonna be worth it because you have a fucking cool little dude or little chick. You know, you have a cool little person to hang out with. So I don't know. Got a little off topic, but whatever. Yeah, I was just like, I'm getting there. I'm not ready yet, guys. I'm not ready yet. But like, you know, one day it's like, I mean, I think like if you are a woman, it's kind of like you have to experience that. You have those 3 phases of your life: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. So like I've been doing the maiden thing for a long time. I'm not in a hurry, but like, it's part of life. Kind of have to experience it. It's kind of cool. Although a lot of people I know like aren't having babies. Like a lot of people are like, I don't have babies. I don't want to have babies. I don't want babies. And I get it because there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to have a baby. I don't want to get up in the morning. I like the whole baby part of it doesn't sound cool. Like when they're walking, talking, that sounds way cooler. But like, like it's just there's a lot of shit that I know that's gonna suck like really bad. Like I already know I'm gonna be fighting with motherfuckers' teachers. I'm gonna be like, oh my god, your teacher's a fucking idiot. Like I could just be the worst parent at the PTA. Can you imagine me at a PTA meeting? I'm gonna be the fucking thorn in the fucking school's side. Okay, and the same, you can't homeschool your kid. They're gonna be a little weird. Okay, let's be real about it. You gotta have the socialization. You gotta have the socialization of being with a bunch of other kids. Like that's necessary. That's the best thing that school does. But there's a lot of things about school that are like fucking stupid. So I could see myself, yeah, being a real pain in the ass for somebody. Anyways, yeah, but I think I see you saying I love my kid. She's nuts, the best thing ever. Like that's the thing about kids, and that's something that I love. What's his face? Ian Malcolm. Said he's like, kids are chaos. Like I love kids. Like he's a chaos mathematician. He's like, yeah, like of course I got kids. Like he's all about that fucking chaos. And so having a kid would be like embracing the chaos on a whole new fucking level. All right, any other questions on Twitch? Give me some more questions, Twitch guys. Yeah, let's just appreciate one another. Like appreciate your woman. Women appreciate your men. Like men gotta do so much fucking bullshit. Like that's the thing. Like I don't want to be a man, okay? Because you guys have to do a lot of bullshit. I don't want to go under the house and fucking snake a drain. Okay, that's a man's job. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I love you guys for doing that. Like, you guys are the best. Like, just like like I'd rather clean the toilet than snake the drain. I'll clean the toilet. I don't want to snake that shit though. I mean, I did that a while ago. Like Tyson was. It was like, I don't want to edit. Like, can you just edit and like I'll just cook a dinner or something? Like, I'll clean the house. Like, I'll do anything. I just like don't like want to like work right now. Like, because men have to work. Work a lot. Oh well, okay. So it's saying, oh, women. I don't know if it's true that women on average are physically weaker than men. Yeah, it is true. I have no upper body strength. Yeah, are you kidding me? I don't, dude, I had to go to the house. You don't even know. Like, my dad would make me do that shit. Like, my dad, he totally wanted a son. I was the firstborn. I was like, I had to do, like, son shit. I had to fucking mow the lawn. It sucked. I had to go into the house with him and snake that drain. Like, I remember on Thanksgiving one year. On Thanksgiving, the fucking drain was clogged and the sink was clogged. And I had to, like, I put on this fucking suit, this full like hazmat suit to go under the house with him, and then it was like into this crawl space. And I mean, there's so many bugs under there. I mean, there's just cave crickets that are like this fucking big. I mean, I didn't even know what was around me, and I don't want to know what was around me because I know it was an awful horror show. And it was, oh my god. And then we were like snaking the drain, and it smelled like just rotten food. It was just like the most disgusting. It was the worst. And then I remember one time the air conditioning went out. And guess what? I had to go help him in the fucking attic when there's no fucking air conditioning. It was in Alabama. It's sweltering fucking hot. Like, I was just like, I'm gonna die. Like, I was just like, I'm gonna die in here. Like, this is too hot. Like, this is the fucking worst. Like, I don't know. I had to put my hand, like, my dad really gave me, like, I did get a masculine experience. Like, I had to fucking help with, like fixing cars and putting my little hands in places because it's like I have teeny little hands and it was fucking crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's like, oh, the independent woman is just like, yeah, I don't know. I like having a partner. I really like having a partner because I can get so much more done. I can get so much more done having a partner. I can just get so much more done, and like it's just if you have a teammate, it's all about having that teammate. You want a teammate. And like, if you finally find a good teammate, like Chani did, which, by the way, okay, seriously, Paul is a fucking quiz-ass hatter. Paul is the universe's super being, and he's like, I would like to see this room through the wisdom of your eyes later. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Because that is one thing. It's like, I personally am able to see from a different perspective and see a social scene and a social dynamic that sometimes, the masculine side does not see, and it's really important to have that. Like my grandma. Okay, so I have a little bit. I feel like I have a little bit of the shine, you know, where you're just like kind of see things that other people can't see, and I get it from my grandma because she's totally like that. And my grandfather used to take her to parties, like work parties and stuff like that. And she would go around to the party and like socialize, and she would find out, like, talk to everybody, and then come back to him and report and be like, okay, this guy's a fucking liar, like this guy's whatever, like da 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 da, you know, like tell him all the stuff that's like going on. And so I have a little bit of that too, and it's really, that's like so important, you know, like that's so important. So if your girl has that, like utilize it, like take her to those parties, like work as a team. You gotta work as a team, you know. It's like it's hard, and you know it's not, you know, relationships are always like about compromise and it's whatever, but it's like if you have something greater that you're working towards together, it's just like it makes it so much better. Soft sciences are really important, you know, important. For example, I want to fucking I want to learn Spanish is what I want to do. That's the soft science I want to do. I want to take a class. I want to learn some Spanish. I have a lot of Spanish speaking audience members out there, and I think it'd be really cool to speak Spanish. It'd be really cool to film something in Mexico eventually, because I think it's cheaper out there to film stuff, so like it'd be helpful for that. And I really don't like traveling, so like if I'm gonna film something and I want to film it somewhere cheaper, I could just go right down to Mexico versus like having to fly all the way to Bulgaria or some shit. I don't want to fly to Bulgaria, you know what I'm saying? Like that's too, I need to stay in the same time zone. I get really messed up when I get fucked up at time zones, and Mexico's time zones are similar to my time zones. So, you know, I wanna do the Espanol thing. I wanna do some of that. So we'll see. But I think that'd be like a whole new dimension, and that's a soft science that I think could really open up some weird new doors for me. That would be really cool, especially because I live in LA, and like so many people here are Spanish speaking. So, in fact, I'm kind of jealous. Like my friend's kid, he just got enrolled into a new school where it's very Spanish speaking school, and so he's like so young that they're just going to teach him Spanish as he like grows up, like in kindergarten. And I'm just like, I wish I had that. Like that's such. I was talking to his mom, and I was just like, girl, that's so cool. Like, you know, that's gonna be so helpful for him. Like him learning Spanish like that, like fuck yeah, you know, like super awesome. So unfortunately, I took French when I was in high school. I took 2 years of French. I should have taken Spanish. I didn't know I was going to move out here. I didn't know I was going to need it. I kind of fucked up. Although French was a lot of fun. I did get to use a little bit of my French. I was talking to a French artist, and like I could do Fringlish. He said I had good Fringlish, so I kind of mixed it and do a little word salad. It was a lot of fun. But yeah. So, and also too, I mean, I just want to say, like, living, because when I was living in Alabama, it's just like white people and black people. That's like pretty much all there is. You know, like that's what, as far as like cultures go, it's like that's really it. There were really not a lot. There was like one Muslim girl. I didn't know any Jews. There's a couple Asians, a couple Indians, you know, like, because it was a science town that I grew up in, and like being out here in California, especially in LA, where it's like a huge melting pot. There's just so many different. I mean, everybody's here. Like everybody from everywhere in the world is here. I mean, we have a little Tokyo, we have a little China, we have a little Armenia, we have K-Town. For Korean stuff, we've got, I mean, Thai Town. We just got so much stuff. Russian areas that are like super Russian. We've got Orthodox Jews areas. We've got fucking everything. Like we've got it all. Okay, like it's just there's a fucking area for everybody out here. And it's so cool. It's like super cool to be exposed to all these different types of people, all these different types of cultures. You know, I've been really enjoying it. But I love like the Hispanic community. I think they're fucking sick. Like everyone I've met, like, oh my God, like I definitely am like super down. I am super down. And that's another reason why I want to learn Espanol, because I feel like they have a lot of fun. And I want to in on that fun, and I want to be able to communicate and go places. Like when I went to Aiden Jodorowsky, the son of Alejandro Jodorowsky. He is a musician, and so I went out. I've been to 2 of his shows when he's come to LA, and then both times it was like very much, I think it was like an Echo Park or something, and it was very much a very Latin crowd, you know, very Latino crowd. And they're so cool. Like, I don't know, man. LA Latinos are like super fucking awesome. They're just like, dude, you guys are doing it right. I want in. I want to be friends. Like, high five. Like, you guys are the best. All about it. Anyways, that was like so like off topic. Let's see here. Any other questions? I don't know. I feel bad. I haven't there's so many questions I haven't gotten to, but it's like whatever, guys. It's our last Dune Club. I just want to enjoy it with you guys. I just want to enjoy it. This has been so much fun. This has been like really great. I've really loved it. And yeah, right, America, America. You know, fuck yeah, fuck yeah. I love the word melting pot. I think it's great. I think it's great. I think we need, and that's why we were talking earlier about like climate change, and like I think it's gonna be kind of good for us because then we're gonna have a scattering. Because even within the United States, though, it's like you have these pockets of places that are very diverse. But then, like you have like the coastal cities, and the coastal cities are always diverse because they're port cities. That's where all the people come in. Like that's just like it's always been that way. It's been that way for hundreds of thousands of years. You know, like ports, like fucking port cities, not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of years. Port cities are always a lot more diverse than like middle places. But as the coastline changes, like all these people are gonna start fucking going in, and like of course there's going to be some resistance at first and people are going to be weird because you have these like, oh, it's a different culture, but like dude, other cultures are fucking awesome. Like I don't know, I think they're really fun to experience, and there's a lot of wisdom you can find in all sorts of other cultures. There's wisdom you can find everywhere. There's a lot of cool stuff, so I'm looking forward to like I'm potentially looking forward to climate change forcing more diversity inwards so that there's more mixing and that people are like way more chill with one another, because I feel like most people who are like, oh, the xenophobic people, you know, oh, these people are the problem, you know, it's like those are people who don't deal with those people, you know, they're just like they're xenophobic because they've had no dealing with them in the open. And so when everyone finally lives together, you see, oh, they're just fucking human beings like me, and we're all the same, and we all just have kids, and we're working, and we're all, you know, it's like it's all the same shit. We're all just trying to like live and feed and grow and have an experience and die, you know, it's like the same thing happens to all of us. So I hope we can kind of get past this like, oh, you're so much different, you know, it's like just wait till the aliens land, then you're gonna see some different motherfuckers, because like we're not that different, like all of us. Like I don't know, I'm really hoping next year, if you know, if I can do well with the Watchmen Club box, I would like to be able to go to Japan next year and visit Japan, because I do believe that climate change is a thing, and I do believe that we're going to see some weird shit, and I don't know how long Japan's going to last, you know, might be gone in 100 years, might be gone in 150 years, I don't fucking know, you know, so before it goes, I want to, like, go out there and have the full Japanese experience, you know, they have a fucking Gundam, they just put up a new Gundam, I want to go see their new Gundam, I want to, like, I just love Japan so much, I don't know why I'm so obsessed with that culture, and I need to, like, I don't know. I've always been like fascinated by them. I've always been fascinated by Japan. That's another language that I wish I could fucking learn Japanese one day. Like that would be a lot of fucking fun, because that language is so cool sounding. Ugh, I love it. I've been watching a lot of anime. I've been watching a lot of anime to get ready. It's gonna be so fucking sick. Like I just bought Paprika the other day. I've been doing a lot of what's the name? Ken Saito or something. Am I getting that right? He did Tokyo Godfathers, Perfect Blue. I put Perfect Blue on last night actually. So I'm really hoping next springtime I can go to Japan, and then we can do like a comic book only teen takes Japan video where, you know, of course T-Bone will be coming, and then we can kind of film our adventures throughout Japan and then bring them to you guys. Because I don't know, like I said, I'm just one of those people that's like, I'm fascinated by other cultures. I'm not freaked out by them. Like, I mean, even though back in the South, like I was saying, in the South there was like white people and black people. It was like pretty much mostly it. Like, I loved going to the June Black Arts Festival. I was like, oh, this was so much fun. Like, it was so much fun, like, going to that, seeing that cultural shenanigan fucking carnival. It was so good. Like, the hip-hop radio station, We Have FM, had their own, like, little June get-together. And, like, they would be, you know, tents, and, like, they'd have musical acts, and they would have, like, food, and it was just, like, a bunch of stuff, and you could stuff to buy, and God, it was just so much fun. I just love infiltrating other cultures and like seeing what's going on. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. How about you, T? Are you ready to go to Japan?
Oh yeah.
You ready for Japan?
Yeah, can't wait.
He's ready for Japan. I hope you get. I know. I haven't. Okay. I see you, Big Dave Lizard, Grave of the Fireflies. I haven't seen it because I know it's gonna make me cry really hard. So I just like haven't watched it because I'm like, ugh, I just can't. But yeah, although I am fascinated, I would want to go to the Middle East. Like I do want to visit the Middle East. I definitely want to go to Egypt at some point. I gotta let for things to calm down a little bit. But if I go to the Middle East and they're like, oh, you have to wear a fucking hijab, I'd be like, okay, I don't fucking care. Like I'll wear whatever. I'll wear whatever, dude. Like I don't care. Like if it's like I'm not gonna come in here with my Western shit and just demand everyone to fucking work around me. Like, I want to have the cultural experience. I want to, like, work within your fucking rules, generally speaking. Like, I was like, I'll do the thing. Like, I'll experience it. I'm down. And honestly, I think it might be fucking awesome to wear that full fucking getup because then you don't have to worry about, like, you'll be comfortable all day. You don't have to fucking makeup on. You can just do whatever you want. Like, I can see there being fun things about it. But yeah, I definitely hit up the Middle East. I would do that. I'd definitely hit it up. I think it'd be cool. I really want to go to Israel, actually. I do want to go to Israel. I heard they have a fucking convention, an absurdist convention where you go and you spend like 2 weeks building an absurd thing that is absurd, and then you show it off. And then everybody just shows off their absurd inventions. Like one guy made a roller coaster for your iPhone. So it's like he made a whole roller coaster, and then you can put your iPhone in the little seat, and then press play, and like it can like, woo! You see this fucking iPhone on a fucking tiny roller coaster, and it's absurd. It's like, why would you make that? Like that's fucking stupid, but like it's fun. So I'm like super down for whatever the fuck that is. Like I want to go to Israel and do that because I don't know. I was talking to this Israeli entrepreneur on this fucking entrepreneur schmooze cruise I went on, and I was like, dude, you totally just sold me. Like. And me and this guy, like me and the Israeli guy, we were teaming up against this fucking idiot. We were all in a hot tub. There was this idiot who was saying like, and he was like, he was LA, of course. And I was like, no, you're making us look bad. And he made like viral videos. He had some company that like made like he made like the viral fruit ninja. He was like a Don Draper of viral videos or something, But he was like, oh, I'm done with that, and I sold my portion of the company, and now I'm gonna sail around the world by myself. And it was like, you're gonna die. Like you've only sailed like for like 2 months of your life. Like you're gonna fucking die out there. I don't know whatever happened to him, but he was saying that we were debating telling people, artists, whether they could or could not draw Mohammed. And he was saying that artists shouldn't draw Mohammed. This was after the Charlie Hebdo thing. And he was saying that, like, oh, you artists shouldn't be doing this. And me and the Israeli guy were like, dude, you can't tell people what they can and cannot do. Like, that's, like, I'm about freedom. Like, I'm about, like, but everybody has to have freedom, Like, you can have the freedom to worship whatever God you want to worship, but you also have the freedom to draw whatever the fuck you want to draw. Like, you can't tell people that you can't do certain stuff, So me and this guy bonded over, like, trying to tell this dumb bro guy about, like, you can't censor art. Like, that's, like, fundamentally against, like, humanity, like doing that. It was crazy times. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, so wrapping up here. Are you guys? Tell me. I'm gonna look at your comments. Tell me. Are you guys looking forward to Watchmen Club? How do you guys feel about it? Are you guys like ready for that? I know that some of you, I'm sure, are disappointed that we're not going on with like the next couple books in the Dune series, but there's only so much Dune I can do. It's just such a heavy hitter. Well, yeah, we're definitely going to come back around to Dune. But
Watchmen Club 6 weeks, though.
Yeah, I think Watchmen Club's going to be 6 weeks. I think we're going to do 2 issues a week. Let me know how that hits you. I'm so glad that you guys are on board. This has been a really cool experiment. And next time around, it is going to be a little different. I don't think we're going to do the pre-recorded thing like we've been doing for Dune. We may just, like, open it up on Twitch, and then I'm here, and I just have my notes of, like, kind of what I want to say, and then I just kind of, like, talk about what happened, and then we just talk, and it's more like this, where I'm just, like, at a computer, and we're talking. And that's actually something, like, with Watchmen Club, with the Watchmen Club box, I'm hoping to make enough money so that I could also buy a laptop for myself, so I can just do this from a laptop. Because I don't have my own computer right now. I don't have my own computer. It's all Tyson. Tyson has, like, 10 computers. I have, like, 0 computers. So I just have, like, sad, like, hand-me-down fucking bullshit. Like, whenever he, like, his mom is, like, constantly, like, his mom in Alpharetta, she's constantly, like, fucking getting a new fucking laptop, like, every time he goes out there, like, once a year. So we always get, like, this old shitty laptop. So I've just been, like, borrowing an old shitty hand-me-down laptop. And that's, like, my sad fucking computer besides my phone. My phone's really, like, my computer. But yeah, and also, as I said earlier, if you are a part of the Patreon members, I think what we're going to do for the Watchmen Club box, and this is still kind of like forming, but I'm trying to launch it this week, and if I can get everything together, although unfortunately my assistant Vicky decided to dip out and just go on a vacation in Mexico all of a sudden, so I'm like, great, I'm so glad that your boyfriend bought you surprise tickets right in the week that we're fucking doing this, but okay, whatever, it's fine. It's fine. So,
I don't have 10 computers.
You have 10 computers.
No, I have one that works well, and I have a bunch of junk.
Okay, he's got one really awesome computer that I don't even touch. I'm afraid of it. And then
You're on it right now.
I'm not touching it though. I'm like over here, you know. And then he's got our old computer, and then you're gonna get a new computer. That's another thing the Watchmen Club box thing is gonna do. Is we got a shopping list of things that we need to kind of expand our operations, you know. So.
That's why this video was late, because it takes so long to render with us.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, that's why we were late today. Okay, one, because we're short-staffed, because Vicky isn't here. Two, she's on a fucking plane to Mexico right now. Two, because our computer's kind of slow. It's like about almost 5 years old now. And so it's kind of, Tyson has maxed out this computer when he first built it. It was so fast and so amazing. But now it's
still pretty good.
It's still great. It's still great, but it definitely, like, it's time to kind of upgrade to the next computer.
And it did survive a death.
Oh! Yeah! Oh, well, let's tell that story real quick before we end today. We'll end on a story. So, some of you may have seen on my Instagram post that Tyson's computer had a fall, took a tumble. His computer fell off. I think the night before we had an earthquake. And so I feel like maybe the earthquake had bumped it like a little bit further towards the edge. And like Tyson was just sitting there. Nobody touched it. Nothing was happening. And it just fell. It just fell off of this shelf onto the fucking ground. It took 3 hard drives with it. 3 hard drives. Okay. It was like, and I remember I woke up and like Tyson was like, oh, I've been waiting for you to wake up. Like, oh, my computer died or something, or my computer committed suicide. And I was like, what? Like,
here,
what?
Here's show people the video.
Oh, yeah. Here. Hold on. Yeah. Here's the video.
No,
Video within a
really bad
video.
for the hard drives.
Just fell right off that shelf. You just stopped it.
Oh, I didn't stop it.
Oh, no, this is really bad for the hard drives.
It's the same video.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
somehow it survived a 5-foot fall. Somehow, after I put it back together.
He thought it was dead. He came over to my house. He was like, oh my God. And he was
like-
taking it so good too.
That picture, that's our whole show on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, this is our whole show on the floor here. This is like our whole show. This is like everything. Like,
5 years of
it
work.
was like 5 years of work. Yeah, there was a 6 terabyte hard drive. There was a couple other terabyte hard drives. It was bad. And he was telling me, he was like, and he was so calm about it though. And I was like, and I was calm about it too. I was like, because that's the thing, like when a big thing happens, it's fucked up. Like I get calm and I don't freak out. But like when little things freak me out. Like little things piss me off. But this was like, oh, it's just such a big problem that you're just like, whatever, you just have to accept it. And he tried to turn it on and it wasn't turning on.
No, it's just making
It was
noise.
just making noise. And I was like, this is a problem, but okay. And I was like, well, you know what? We were going to buy a new computer anyways with fucking Watchmen Club, so I guess this is just kind of like a signal that we got to do that. So, but the next day, he took it all apart.
Yeah.
He took it all apart.
Yeah, it was a miracle. I took the whole thing apart, put it all back together. I checked every piece in an old computer,
Checked
piece
every
by piece.
checked every piece in an old computer,
And
piece by piece.
somehow it was a miracle that it worked.
Yeah.
Back together.
It came back
And I
alive.
think it was because I had so many cables plugged into the back of it that it caught itself like a spider
It caught itself like a
Spider
spider web on all the cables. So like that's what prevented it from dying. So
Yeah, it didn't have as hard a fall as I thought.
so it's still viable, but we still want to buy a new computer. But it was like really, it was close. It was a real close call, and all the hard drives still work too, surprisingly. Like
I know one of them fell 6 feet
one of them fell 6 feet, and
while I
it's
was running.
while it was running, and it's fine.
I don't know how that happened.
Lifelong Soma, I see you've asked I've seen this question a couple times. What will be the #1 reason you think the book is essential for everyone to read? I think it's essential because it's alchemical. It's magical. It'll change you. It's like if you're ready for it and you're in that mode, it'll just do nothing but positive things for you. Like you may not be able, like it may not be for you when you read it. Like you'll either know, it'll be like you read it and you're like, oh my god, and your fucking awareness expands, or you read it and you're like, I don't care, and you fucking don't read it. So, but it's important because if you do respond to that stimulus, then like it will definitely change you. You know, it'll definitely change you. So, but yeah, Spider Computer was saved. We're still going. This month we're really looking for. We're working on a Mother review right now. We got a Saga review, a Snorkel review in the works as well. We're gonna do a lot of smaller reviews this month. Next month in November, we're doing Matrix November. We're going to talk about the fucking Matrix. We talked about that like almost a whole year ago. We've talked about how we're going to talk about the Matrix. But we're going to make good on that promise. It may take fucking a year longer than you wanted it to, but it's totally going to do it. Also, Litany of Fear merch is happening. I am working with a guy right now, working with this other company. We're trying to get a merch store together. That's something I'm also going to be working on. So pretty soon we're going to have a Litany of Fear t-shirt that looks like a black metal shirt where it's like has that picture of me as the Benning Gesserit on the front, and on the back it's like Litany of Fear, and like has the Litany of Fear on the back. And I also want it to come with a little card that has it on there so you can put it in your wallet, and like it'll be awesome. So
Wish they had made it like a Dune Club shirt, just that logo right there.
I know, no, I do want to make a Dune Club shirt with just the logo, like this logo right here. Yeah, I want to make a shirt with this logo on it too. So we're gonna do like a pen. Like, I gotta get all that sorted out. Now that Dune Club is over with, I can have the mental bandwidth so I can make all these decisions so that we can get that store up and running pretty soon. So we're gonna have Dune Club merch on the way. Huh?
How many people want that shirt?
Yeah, I know. I want that. I want the fucking, are you kidding me? I want the fucking shirt. Like, I'm making this for me.
We've had the worst luck with the merch. Just takes
I know, merch guys are really hard to find.
You think after 5 years we'd have some merch by now?
You think after 5 years we'd have some merch, but it's really difficult. But we're finding, we found a guy. He seems fucking really cool. Everything's working out really well so far. I got to make a bunch of decisions, but we're totally doing it. And yeah, and the Watchmen box is coming out too. That'll be a separate thing. That'll be coming out probably first. And then thank you guys again for joining me. You guys are my true Fade-to-Keen warriors. We might do a thing with merch where we can get some Dune Club diplomas. We may have like a test. If I can, next month, if I have some time, I want to like try to create a test online that you can take. And if you pass it, then like you could like sign up and get like some sort of Dune Club, like pay for us to send you a diploma that says you're a Dune Club graduate. That'd be really funny. I think that'd be so funny. So I'm gonna talk to my merch guy about that. Like hopefully we can get that going. That'll be really cool. And yeah, okay, well let's wrap it up today. Dune Club, Session 12, Fade-to-Keen Warriors. I love you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Thank you again, and I can't wait to see you guys back for Watchmen Club.